Back to an episode that won't get flagged, maybe.
Well, who
Okay.
knows, man?
Yo,
Seems like
Let's
all your
let's try to
content is
see
really-
if we can do this episode without cursing.
Okay, wait, we gotta get it out now. Gotta be like, okay,
Yeah.
let's go.
Those are your go-to words?
Gotta go with the Carlin 7.
Welcome back to another episode of Not a Strong Start, a podcast by filmmakers who talk movies, television, and have to curse excessively to get out of our system, just to not get flagged, which will probably still get flagged. I'm your host, Daniel de Sangre.
I am Jose.
I am Marie. So formal.
I don't know why I felt like I had to do the hands there. I'm like, Jose.
Everybody, I'm Jose.
Marie.
Dun-dun-dun. Hello.
It's like I presented myself like, here we go.
Let's go. As soon as we said PG, everything's
Yeah,
like
let's
so
go
Pixar
PG.
now. We're so Pixar.
PG.
So, yes, PG. So in this week's episode, we're actually talking about movies that made lasting impressions on us. We're going to get into that. But first, we're going to do a current event.
So they recently interviewed Sylvester Stallone, and they were asking him about his good friend Bruce Willis, who they've been friends for many, many years, and how things have been going. And basically, where he reported is that due to his aphasia, he hasn't really been able to communicate with Bruce Willis, so they kind of have not been in touch. And it's something that he was really sad about because they were so close for all those years. So unfortunately, a sad recent event to kind of provide an update on how things seem to be going with Bruce Willis.
Oh, it's just sad. It's like when anything like that happens to an actor that you like cherish, like Michael J. Fox and everything, and Bruce
Yeah.
Willis. I love Bruce Willis so much. My favorite movie of his is probably The Fifth Element. I don't know. I just love that movie so much. It's
Love
just
it.
so good. It got like no, we're not talking about Mila Jovovich. Anyway, Bruce Willis, it's sad. I'm sad about it because he had a special place in my heart for many movies.
Yeah, he did. I love him as an actor. He did so many iconic movies, so many iconic roles. I love Fifth Element too. Die Hard is obviously still amazing. The thing with him though is sometimes you hear some bad things about his character when he was on movie sets. And I know we've kind of talked about that a little bit. He had a very bad experience with Kevin Smith. Cop Out.
Oh, okay.
That's the one. They had a
Was
very,
Tracy
very
Morgan?
Yeah, with Tracy Morgan, yeah. But he had a very bad experience with him on that. But having said that, I mean, the image that we see from him on camera and what he did in the 90s, like the dude's an icon. I love Bruce Willis. And like you hate to see people go out that way, especially when it deals with mental stuff like that or physical impairments like Michael J. Fox. It's hard because you're seeing our heroes vulnerable, and it's just it's tough.
I think one thing, and then this is something I've seen a lot in sports, is that when you see someone who's been great and done so many things, it's like you kind of always want that storybook ending where it's like they finished on top. Their last game, they finished with a championship. Their last game was great. Their last movie that they were like, "Oh, this is amazing. I can go off into the sunset." But it was like with Bruce Willis, his career ended with a record of Razzie nominations where he had his own category. And like that was the bookend to his career. So like I kind of wish he would have, been able to at least do one more like quality movie and kind of just go out on top.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, the health is going to be more important, but it's like that kind of it puts something into like that storybook ending where he didn't get that.
Yeah, it does. And it's sad because I remember hearing a story that I think it was one of the producers was on set for one of his last movies and he'd kind of stop, during something like even if it was behind the scenes and he'd kind of have to ask, why is he there?
Oh,
Like,
no.
why am I here? And who are you? And questions like that. And it's so sad. And when he was coming out with these movies, everybody was thinking he's just falling off. He's not the same. He's not doing as well. Then when you found out why he did them as like his final cash grab to give, money to his family, it's like, man, that's how quick society is to judge people,
Oh, yeah. Especially celebrities like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we got that with Boswick. It was like everyone was just criticizing his appearance
Chadwick
for
Boseman.
Bozeman, yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone was criticizing his appearance for all those years and kind of getting on him, and he never said a word. And then come to find out what he was dealing with, and he passed away. And then afterwards, it's like hindsight's 2020, but it's like unless you personally know them, is like sometimes people just need to chill in their aggressive judgment. Of course, everyone's gonna have their opinions, things are gonna pop in your head, but people with their aggressive judgment, it's like you don't know what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, that's the day and age we live in now. It's like everybody's like on the attack, and I feel like they have the right to say anything about everybody. So it's sad. It's like kind of honorable that he never mentioned anything. That must have been hard though for him to like take all that stuff and not say anything. But
like even Selma Blair's going through something similar like that. Have you guys seen her recently? I feel bad for her. She even had to exit. What was it, Dancing with the Stars, I think it was, or she was on something that she had to exit because she just can't. I mean, it's, she heard some devastating recent news, and I feel bad. This is a good way to pivot. I know.
Well, here, we just got into performers who kind of left a lasting impression and these like emotional connections to like their work. I feel like that's the perfect segue to kind of go into our topic, where we're going to be talking about movies that left a lasting impression on us. And it can be any type of impression, any kind of emotional connection, whether it's happiness, anger, paranoia, disturbance, whatever it is. We're going to kind of get into movies that after we watch them, we still thought about for a variety of different reasons. Before we get into that, I think let's talk in general. What are some things that can make a movie for you leave a lasting impression?
It depends. I have a couple categories, and I have movies in like each category. Where if something's really disturbing and it makes me feel really disgusting inside, that usually lasts because I'm usually filled with rage afterwards. As I'm like, oh, why did I watch that? Or why did someone make me watch that? And that stays with me. I think if you have also I have like some like romantic type movies, or movies that have teach like a valuable lesson about life, like a whole like you only live once thing, and those movies affect me hard, and I usually cry super hard at those movies. It's just like, life is precious and we gotta live our life and do what's true to ourselves. That's a huge one for me too, personally. And anything to do with like nostalgia value, that usually sticks for me as well.
For me, I also look at a lot of artistic stuff. So if I see a lot of artistic cinematography, very artistic filmmaking, or very complicated stories, or just really, really phenomenal acting. If I just see like an actor that just murders it, like for instance, the movie Glengarry Glen Ross. I won't even ask you, Marie, if you've seen it, because I'm assuming you haven't. So there's a scene that Alec Baldwin is barely in the movie. He's in one scene, but it's so damn memorable, his scene in that movie, that it just creates a lasting impression, that even when you talk about that movie to other people that love it, it's always Alec Baldwin that's brought up, and he's literally in one scene of that movie. So sometimes I look at that. If it's something that brings me, sometimes even if something kind of tickles my the nostalgia, if it's like nostalgia, that it tackles that, it reminds me of childhood, it reminds me of a certain time or point in my life, those movies tend to have a lasting impression with me as well, because they connect with me personally.
I agree with that. I have that as one of my last ones. Is sometimes if you have a movie that has either the movie as a whole, or a concept or a scene in it that connects with something in my life at that point in time, now I've got that permanent connection with that moment. Movies that connect with ideas that can possibly happen. So things that I'm like, ooh, I can see that happening at some point. It's like related to everyday life. Then when I get into those moments where I come across similar things that were in the movie, I start thinking about like, oh, what if this happened? What if that happened? So it creates like that permanent link with that. So I think those are a couple without reiterating what you guys already explained, because some of those will also like work for me.
First one I'm going to mention is Jurassic Park. It was one of the biggest impactful movies for me as a kid. I became obsessed with dinosaurs at that time. Steven Spielberg, I'm always very vocal about it. I consider him the greatest director of all time. Just because that's a whole nother discussion, but the guy has done so many iconic movies, but Jurassic Park had a whole feeling behind this. Like, it was one of the strongest movies ever that came out in the box office. I remember watching it at a drive-in theater, and there was a bunch of trees and things behind us. So when I watched it, and we had like the speakers, it was kind of loud, so you kind of see the trees shake a little bit. Just the whole atmosphere when I watched it, it was just so impactful. And that was around the time when I had read Jurassic Park, the novel, as a kid. And I think I was like maybe in 5th grade, and I read it. And I loved it. So I became hooked on reading more adult content and reading novels and reading Stephen King and all that stuff. So Jurassic Park left such a big impact on me, because it kind of combined what E.T. did in terms of youth, but then it added horror elements to it. So obviously I love horror. So it combined two really good aspects for me.
That's a good movie. And I had no idea you enjoyed Jurassic Park at all. It's the first time I've heard you talking about it.
Ever, right? Shocker.
At all.
First, it's funny because I almost wore my Jurassic Park shirt today, and I should have. Would have been like, what? But I know what. And also, first, I just want to ask, what's your favorite dinosaur, Daniel?
Mine of that movie, or
just
ever?
yeah.
Okay, so it was always the T-Rex. I really loved the Triceratops when I was young, but it was a T-Rex. They made Velociraptors amazing, though. Jurassic Park. Yeah. I knew nothing about Velociraptor, but
they're not what Velociraptors really are.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Of course,
so that's why
I see like the king.
Of course, T-Rex. Come on.
Yeah, the king.
King. I love the king.
Okay, well, for me, I'm going to start with something not good because I want to end happy. So, one movie that it's the movie that I hate the most that I've ever seen. I hate this movie so much. Ooh. The way it made me feel. I remember watching it with someone who was like, let's watch this movie. And after we watched it, I was like furious. Why the heck did you tell me to watch this? I was mad. Like, it was like, anyway, the movie is called Ken Park. And it is written by the writer of Kids. So
oh god,
let's just have that. Oh yeah, well, there you go. This is the same vibe. So basically, Ken Park, what it is a 2002 erotic drama which revolves around the abusive and dysfunctional lives of several teenagers in California. Okay, and it was written by, what's his name, Harmony Korine or something like that. Anyway, he wrote Kids. It was directed by him too, Ken Park, I think. Anyway, it involves incest, sexual and physical abuse, murder, suicide, and it's disgusting and pointless. Those are my notes. If you ever want to watch a movie that will ruin your life, you'll never forget, that will make you feel terrible about life and the world and people and humans and teenagers and everything, watch Ken Park. It'll make you feel terrible forever. Forever.
Well, with that ringing endorsement, I'm gonna run a Blockbuster.
I just like, it's one of those movies where I really don't wish it upon anybody. I wish I never saw it. I remember seeing Kids too, like a long ago, but like not the whole movie, because it leaves you with that grit, I want to take a shower feeling, and like nauseous. Like, it's just, Ken Park to me is worse than Kids. Worse.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And very graphic.
Ooh. Kids is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Like, in terms like that. Not that it was made badly. I just want to preface that. Not that it was made badly. It's the content was so yucky and gross and realistic.
But my brain needs a shower. My eyes need a shower. Everything needs a shower.
First movie, but I feel it transitions well because it fits within that same realm and is almost a similar impression. This was more of a disturbing, and I haven't watched this movie since the first time I saw it, and I won't again. And it's a French movie called Martyrs. In this movie, like the torture, the pain and stuff that they put this like woman through in the scene just for their belief, not for any functional reason, like the pure torture, just for their belief, just because they want someone to be as close to death as possible to tell them what the other side looks like. That's the whole reason for doing this. It was just so disturbing. There was just this one scene that was so, I mean, on the filmmakers aspect, I respect the fact that they didn't turn the camera away, because if someone's willing to view this movie, then you better deal with the discomfort of this movie, like not give that escape. Um, but it was just such a disturbing scene that that scene kind of rings in my head every time I think of Martyrs, and it's I refuse to go back to watch it again. It's one of those one and done movies. So that's one that did not leave a good lasting impression for me.
There's one that's called Irreversible. That's exactly what kind of what you're describing. It's a very realistic portrayal where you see this scene played out with Monica Bellucci, and it's so disgusting. It's so realistic, and the camera stays on it. And that's the thing about foreign films. And in a way, that's what I really appreciate about foreign films, is because with American cinema, because of our PG rating or rating system, you're not allowed to show really graphic things, and you can't show them for very long periods of time. Europeans or just international in general, they don't care. They're going to show it to you, and it gives you that yucky kind of feeling. But that's what's so brilliant at the same time about this stuff, is because film is supposed to elicit emotions. Whether that's good or that's bad, it's supposed to elicit emotions. So when you watch things like Irreversible, Mortars, or Kids, or even when you said Ken Park, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. That's why when we say, oh, these movies are bad, it's not that it was made poorly. It's the opposite. They're made very well. It's just a very gross feeling. And it's one of those ones, like with Irreversible, I saw it the one time, I'm good. I never have to watch it again because it's so disturbing.
I had a friend of mine. This is after I had watched Martyrs, and I remember he brought it up. This was my my housemate at the time, and I was like, I mean, if you want to watch it, I'm not gonna watch it with you. I saw it once. That's enough. I warn you though, it's pretty bad. And I remember they went to go watch it in the room, and he came out like 15 minutes later, and he was like, "Oh, it's not so bad." And I'm like, "Okay." After the movie, he came out and he was like, "Why did you let me watch that?" I'm like, he was like,
You
"That was
warned them.
disturbing." I'm like, "I told you,
Right.
I told you."
I have a couple more for disturbing, but disturbing in a good way, where I loved the movies, and that's Old Boy and Hereditary. And Old Boy, to me, I watched it and I was like, this movie is amazing. It was so
You're talking
well
about the
done.
original, right?
The original.
The
I've never
foreign.
seen the remake. The foreign, the Korean version.
Good.
Everyone's seen that? Everyone's seen that?
Yep.
I don't think I could watch it. I wasn't a parent at the time I watched it. That changes it a little bit. But I remember it being one of the most jaw-dropping, oh my God, reveals, twists in any movie I've ever seen, to the point where I actually was like, what? Like, I got on, I'm like, I'm like freaking out. And it's just so well done. There's that scene in the hall with the hammer, and it's just, that's my favorite scene. And also when he's eating a live octopus in real life. And apparently he's a Buddhist in real life, and they don't eat animals or something. But he did it for that scene. Like, I don't know how many and it's like clinging. That movie, there's images that will always be with me. I remember suggesting it for somebody, and then she came, a coworker I had, and then she came into work the next day and punched me in the arm and said, "Why would you tell me to watch that?" And I'm like, "It's good. It's so good." But those two, and then Hereditary, we all know. It's like Hereditary I thought about for days and days after, and I watched that movie and I'm like, oof, this is it. This is this on the verge of being too disturbing. No, not even really. It's just like the disturbing that I like, and it's artistic, and the sound and the music, and it's just beautiful, and I love it. Those are I got all the disturbing ones out of the way, but this is more of a happy disturbing.
I would say stick with what you already have in your head for Old Boy. Don't bother with the American remake. It's just a watered down version of that under American movie rules. So stay with what you have.
Yes, I won't tempt.
Yeah, anytime there's a foreign version of a movie, always watch the foreign version. Always.
Mhm.
I've never seen it where the American version's better. It's rare that that happens. It's always the foreign one that's better. And I'm talking about the ones where the foreign movie came first. That's
Yeah.
the ones I'm talking about.
The only one I liked as much is The Ring. I liked the American version of The Ring.
It was good. It was good. Yeah.
Not saying it's better,
it was good.
but I liked it.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
liked it.
Yeah. I liked it too.
Yeah, I think for me, one that I did like the American version was Vanilla Sky.
I don't think I saw
Mm.
the foreign one.
It's Abre los Ojos, I think is what it's
Oh,
called. It
okay.
also stars Penelope Cruz. She's in both of them.
Interesting.
Oh, I like that they did that. That's good.
Yeah, so that one I did enjoy the American. All right, Dan, what's your next one?
Okay, so I'm gonna pick one that this was a movie in the 1920s called of course, I picked something random, but called the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. It's a movie that came out in the 1920s, but the way that they filmed it, it's so dark and disturbing. It's like to me, what I appreciate, there's no sound in it. It's all just subtitles that you read on the bottom, but there's horror elements to it. And to me, when I watch it, I appreciate so much cinema and filmmaking. So to me, it left a lasting impression because they did so much stuff that they're able to do on sets and with lighting and camera work that is way ahead of its time that even current stuff now just can't quite tap into. So, that's what it kind of left for me was how creative and how tricky and artistic you can get with the camera and good lighting, despite that the camera is not as good as it is today, despite all that stuff. The artistic ambition is what captivates me with that movie.
Hey, I've seen it.
Have you? Did you like it?
You
didn't like it at all?
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it.
Oh.
I thought I'd freak you out a little bit.
I did. That's why I was like, what the hell?
I was like, am I the
haven't seen
only one that hasn't seen it? Like Marie
No, I
saw it?
haven't seen
And
it.
like
Yeah. Jose's immediately like, that's it. I'm quitting the show. If she's seen it and I haven't seen it.
Yeah. If I've seen anything you haven't seen.
No.
all right. I think for my next one, I'm gonna group two movies together because it's kind of like the same type of lasting impression that left. And I'm gonna go The Matrix and The Truman Show on this one.
Those are two very
Okay,
different.
Yeah, well, because the impression they gave on both of those is like, especially growing up, sometimes I'll just be sitting there and I'll be like, is this real?
Yeah, they do the same
Am
deal,
am I asleep in the Matrix? Or sometimes I'll be like, what if I am the lead character in the movie and like someone's watching me right now, like at this moment? Am I censored at this moment while they're watching me? I don't know, but
you got
they
flagged.
both.
Your real life got flagged.
Say that.
I'm like, well, I'm losing ratings now. But they both gave me that impression, that lasting impression, where sometimes I would have moments and think like, hey, is this real? How real is this? And it was thinking of situations like the Truman Show and like the Matrix, where people were blissfully not aware on how their situation wasn't real. It was a TV show or it was a simulation. And to this day, sometimes I'm like, imagine we're in the Matrix. Like, can I see the code in the wall? Like, so I felt like those needed to be paired together because it was the same type of impression, even though those two movies are so different.
Yeah.
Love it. It made sense though. When he said it, I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah. Is any of this real? Yeah.
I'm gonna go with The Shining.
Ooh,
there's so many iconic scenes in that movie, and watching it when I was a kid, because I did watch it as a kid, it was so disturbing. The two little girls at the end, and when they do the quick flashes of bodies, I'm trying not to get us flagged here, censored, but when you see quick flashes of some of those horror elements, it's so disturbing. It's very disturbing at the time, and it sticks in your head. And that's why The Shining is so iconic, is because they have so many iconic moments. And it's those moments that have a lasting impression, because I still think about them now. I still reference certain things. Marie has a pillow behind her because of The Shining. Exactly. It's dark, and they really set it up. We've seen so many horror, we've seen so many ghost movies. The Shining does it in such a different way, and that's the way that Kubrick does it, where it feels so realistic. You know what I mean? It's so realistic. So got to go The Shining.
Good one.
Love it.
Can't argue with that. And that's
Mhm.
something I know people who haven't seen the movie and that's left an impression on them because they
Mhm.
remember
Yeah.
specific things from it, even without ever seeing the movie. So
Yeah.
that's something that a movie I feel had an overall lasting impression on
Hmm.
movies in general. So
I'm gonna go something romantic because horror and romance are my two favorite ever. And I'm gonna say, Dan will appreciate this. Amelie. Amelie was one for me.
That's on my
And
list
I
too.
is it? I was
Yeah,
wondering.
it is.
I also really like foreign films. I haven't seen half as many as some people have probably, but this one to me, well, is a French film. I have French background. My family all spoke French and everything like that. Not me, because I didn't luck out that way. No one taught me. But this movie is what made me appreciate and realize how much I appreciate the color palette in movies. I think it made me realize how much the colors affect your mood and your feel when you watch a movie. So this one to me is like inventive and it's artistic and it's like deep and emotional, but very playful and delicate. And it just has all these feelings in it. And she's creating this own world in her head. One of my favorite lines, what is it? Where it's like she can't relate to other people or something like that. And I've always, that to me, I'm like, I'm the same way. I always feel like I couldn't. So she creates his own world in her head, but that makes her grow and she has her self-realization in it. And then she, of course, is a love story and she finds like the love of her life. And there's a scene at the end where this like really slow, intimate, like kissing scene, and I love it. I think about it all the time.
Oh yeah.
Not like it's not even like kissing, it's like cute kissing and discovery, and it's just that movie's beautiful.
It is. I'm a huge fan of that movie. It's one of my favorite movies ever. Exactly what you said is that color palette. The director Jean-Pierre Jeunet. I literally named my French bulldog Jean-Pierre Jeunet. He also shout out. He
Cool
also
name.
directed Alien Resurrection, which is still a very underrated alien movie, but that's fine. But I think this
that's
world
for
that he
another day.
that's for another day. He set up such a quirky story and a quirky world, and that's what he's so good at, is that he's very good at developing characters, and characters that each have their own like quirks and their own personality.
Mm-hmm.
And he exaggerates that in this movie, and it's like it kind of reminds me a little bit like Wes Anderson, where it's like a very kind of coloring book type of world, like it's very like a pop-up book. It feels very pop-up book.
Yes, it
That's what
does
it
feel like
feels
a
like.
pop-up book.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yes.
So I agree. Love that movie.
Good.
Jose, have you seen it all?
Huh?
Have you seen
I
it all?
once a long time
Mm.
ago. I need to go back to it, kind of refreshing on it a little bit. But that was one I've only seen once. I don't know why I never went back to it because I did enjoy it. But
Hmm.
I need to
Really good.
redo that right now. I'll see you guys.
Right now. Bye,
Right
Jose.
now. Bye.
Enjoy.
um, Mine, I guess with the next one, I will go. It was one of my favorite movies when I was in like high school and getting older. It was Internal Sunshine of the Spotless
Mm.
Mind. In there. Absolutely love that movie. And then it's a movie that when I was going through, tougher times and like heartbreak and all of that,
Mm.
this is a movie that I always would think back to and be like, oh man, if I can only just erase this person
Yeah.
like from my
Yeah.
memory and get rid of like all these feelings and then just like one day to another, like live my life and continue on. And this is the movie, the concept of it, I would always go back to and be like, oh, if I had that technology, this would be so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel this movie definitely left a lasting impression. It was just such a great concept, and in it the way they portray the loss of the memory, and then when it was actually happening, that regret and the fight to keep whatever last bit of it. Because as I got older, I started to realize like, hey, while it was tough at the time, there's no such thing as a wasted experience. You get something from everything. And if you completely eliminate that, from your memory, that's a piece of growth of you that you're gonna take away. And that movie, I feel portrayed it in there where he was like just trying to fight for that last little bit, and keeping it. So I think such an underrated, well done movie.
That's me so crying. It does. Oh my god, that's beautifully said. It's so true.
Thank you.
Good one. Clearly it leaves a lasting impression. You
Yeah.
just think about it and hear about it and you're like, oh my god, goddamn.
Every few years I would like rewatch that one again. I'm like, still hits.
Dude, I love
still
it.
hits.
I love
Yeah.
it, man, because you have the whole thing, because it the theme is love, right? And you can love somebody so much that it pains you to have even loved them at all. And you know that old motto, it's better to have loved and lost than to never love at all. Well, that movie is completely no, it's not. It's even more painful. And as much as you think, oh, I can touch or I can feel love, it's not. It once it's deprived of you, you didn't know what you were losing before having it. That's why I love that movie as well, man. It's done so well. And that's
hits
Jim
on so many
Carrey.
levels.
Jim Carrey is so good. He's such an underrated dramatic actor.
Yeah.
But also it's kind of in that movie, another aspect of it is like, you know what? It's not going to be perfect and we're going to like F up and stuff, but like, who cares? Like, I'd rather have this than like not have it at all, you know? Oof, that movie.
Yeah.
They get back to right. They try it again after going through all that. And that's the point. You can't stop it.
So many levels, just layer after layer in that movie.
Good one. Good one.
I'll go into the next one. Go with a little bit of a lighter one on this one. This is a bit of a silly lasting impression. So I watched this movie as a kid because I loved watching horror as a kid. Critters. So there's just one scene in Critters that left a lasting impression when I was a kid. And I think this is like the very end of the movie. This is the surprise, still alive, like thing.
Okay.
Is when the guy goes into the bathroom and he sits down to use the bathroom, and there's a critter like in the toilet that's like and just like bites him. But and like I think like if I remember correctly, that's where it ends. It's like your big like surprise at the end. Well, I watched this as a kid, and I don't remember for how long I was doing toilet checks every time I go into the bathroom. It was like looking like, where is it? Like sitting down, always looking down, like make sure nothing comes out of there. So as a kid for a while, I had that paranoia of like one of these little creatures is going to come out of the toilet. It's going to take a bite out of me. Not on my watch. It would always be.
You just keep flushing it.
My most memorable movie theater experience ever, and it's a happy one. And that was when I went to watch Rogue One in the theater. And I went with my whole family. So my husband was there, my mom and my dad were there, and my brother and my sister-in-law were there. And I don't remember, the last time I went to go see a movie in theater with my parents was probably The Sandlot, like when I was a kid. And then my brother and I, he lives in the States, so he was here for Christmas. So it was like a big family thing. And my brother and I, Star Wars is like our thing. We really bonded over. That's another whole other thing that's a memorable, lasting effect. But so seeing Rogue One, if I start crying again, you guys, I'm sorry, but this is what movies can do when they leave a lasting effect. This is why we love them so much. But we went to go see it in the theater, saw it with my brother. He already saw it before me, but he had to go see it with me. He was like, you have to go in the theater with me. And I remember so many scenes, I was like shaking inside because I was so excited. And that movie does fan service so perfectly. And it's more of like an adult Star Wars movie. So the kid in me loved it and the adult in me loved it. And that Darth Vader scene, I will just YouTube that Darth Vader scene randomly because I'm just like, I remember in the theater, I was like, again, shaking and sweating. And I was like crying because I was like, this is so powerful. This is amazing. Best Darth Vader scene, best Star Wars scene in my opinion.
I was like, finally, that's the Darth that we on.
Yes.
People are like, well, it doesn't make sense because then in A New Hope, he's like all calm. And I'm like, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. He like did it all then. He's like, whatever, I'm going to be calm Vader now. Anyway, when I left that theater, I was like a child. I was like skipping and jumping and running around like, oh my God, this part. Oh my God. And I like freaked out. I think I like wrote a post to the director in my Facebook. I don't know. That movie that experience, one of my most favorites in life for so many reasons.
Okay.
You
Really
won't-
giving her.
You won't get any pushback over here.
Yeah,
for
no,
that
not
one.
at all. I had so I remember when Star Wars Episode 1 came out, The Phantom Menace.
Oh, but
Okay, granted, yes, the movie sucks. Okay, I get it. But when it was coming out, I was so hyped and geeked for it because we're all huge Star Wars fans. We never experienced a Star Wars movie coming out in theaters. We weren't born.
right, yes.
By the time they came out, we never experienced that. So when it was coming out, I remember the first time I saw the image of Darth Maul, I was like, oh, he looks so bad. I was like, he actually looks cooler than Darth Vader. Like, he looks cool. I remember we had to camp out just to buy tickets in front of the movie theater. Like, it was like a whole experience. Yeah. And I remember people had like, video games, systems set up and all. It was such a blast waiting in line and doing the whole experience. And people were dressing up as Jedis and they're doing lightsaber fights and everything. It was such a worldwide event. That's how I felt when Phantom Menace was coming out, because there was so many of us that grew up on Star Wars, and the adults, when Star Wars came out, the adults, I can't speak for all of them, obviously, but a lot of them didn't understand it. It wasn't for them. It was the children. Well, those children started growing up and becoming either, our parents or uncles, aunts, whatever, older cousins. So us generation grew up in that as well. So you had just more generations of people that were so hyped for this movie. And I remember when I first watched Phantom Menace, I didn't know right away if the movie sucked. I was like, oh, it was cool. You try to convince yourself. Then after a while, I was like, man, this one's not that good. And then when I saw the second one, I was like, okay, this definitely sucks. It was the second one that convinced me that it sucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The first one was a little wishy-washy.
Broke the veil, the beer goggles you had for the first one.
That's why Rogue One was so good though, because Rogue One, I don't know who didn't like it, but everyone seemed to like walk out like, wow, that was it. That was what we wanted this whole time. Not the prequels, which in my mind don't exist. Yeah, that one. But that's a beautiful lead up to the movie though, Daniel. I remember it coming out and it being like just the most hype thing ever.
It's just fun. It's fun when movies are spectacles like that, where it's like an event. You need to go watch this. Like we mentioned it before that when Exorcist came out, it was such a spectacle horror film. People were vomiting, people were passing out. Like it was a big deal. It's fun to be a part of those type of movies. When the original Star Wars came out in 1977, it was another spectacle movie. We didn't get to experience that, especially when Empire comes out and they do the big reveal of Darth Vader. Think about how shocking that must have been in theaters watching that for the first time. Like, oh, and we had no internet to ruin it. And I just cursed, but I'm gonna bleep that out. I couldn't help.
We can't not. We can't not.
Yeah, but we didn't have anything to ruin that. So imagine how that experience would have seen. I remember on Twitter somebody posed a question: if you can go back in time and experience any movie for the first time viewing, what would it be? Mine was Empire Strikes Back.
Empire Strikes Back,
because that big reveal is like the biggest what moment ever.
Beautiful.
Now I can stand off my soapbox. Yeah. One that I really dug, again, is more stylistic and stuff, but it still left lasting impression on a lot of shots and scenes and clips, is A Clockwork Orange. I love A Clockwork Orange. And the Clockwork Orange, that very opening clip is my favorite intro to any movie ever. Is A Clockwork Orange. I love that shot because you start off on the main character, Alex. As you pull back, you see the whole world. You see how it's like a futuristic Earth. And then you start to paint the picture behind how this world exists and how it functions and how the people are, and even the different dialects of how they speak. Everything just gets revealed in just one pullback the entire time, the way Kubrick does it. So for me, A Clockwork Orange, I remember watching that when I was like in college. That got me so inspired and hyped to get into directing. And that was what really had me focus on so many cinematic shots and looking at technical aspects of filmmaking, was that movie.
And we literally just referenced that movie in the last episode we recorded. It's like, that's one of the movies that it always pops up as a reference in there. So definitely lasting impression on that one.
That movie, I remember growing up and always knowing that that's my dad's favorite movie of all time is A Clockwork Orange.
Is
But I
it?
remember him, and I remember him being like, just it's for adults. Like there's scenes in it that's too certain. So as a kid, I was like, ooh, The Allure, my dad's favorite movie, but ooh, don't watch it. It's not for kids. So I didn't watch that movie until I was in my early 20s for the first time. But after I watched it, that Halloween, I was Alex DeLarge. That's what I dressed up as him, and I was like, it is, yeah. I think I've only seen it like twice, but it did really like, whoa. It was, I was like, yeah.
Because it's like when he's singing in the rain while doing that really dark scene when he's sitting there abusing this poor couple. And what I read was that was improv. He just started singing it, and Kubrick let him do his thing and loved it, obviously, because he kept it in there. But when you grab something so pure and you combine it with violence, it's so good, because they did that. Tarantino did that with Reservoir Dogs. Remember, with the scene where he's cutting off the ear? You get a song that's so bubbly and popular, but then you combine it with violence, and it's just it's so wrong that it feels so
your brain doesn't know what to do. Like I feel comforted and happy, but why am I feeling uncomfortable and grossed out? Like why am I mad about it, but I'm happy? And
we had it's funny you mentioned that, Dan, because I did a one act show in when I was in college. And it was a scene where my character was basically slowly kind of going through a mental breakdown. They were obsessive. They was obsessed with their ex lover and all of that. And so there's the scene where my character has his gun, so he's engaging in some violent, threatening acts. But thinking of that is I got to do kind of what I wanted, and I had that same mindset. Remember that movie? I'm like, hey, let me sing a nursery rhyme while I like doing this and threatening her through the gun. So I went with like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and I like sang that while I was like threatening her. And that was thinking back to like that movie and being like, remembering how effective that was. I'm like, oh, I want to see if I can like provide that to the audience, the same thing I had gotten from that movie. So it definitely works. And even just acting it, if you like, it gets you into it, like that conflict between what you're saying and what you're doing. It's amazing.
It's such a beautiful tool that not enough filmmakers use. You know what I mean? It's such a beautiful tool to do that. Yeah.
I feel like they use it in horror movies sometimes. Like they'll like have like a little girl singing a song, and then it's like a jump scare or something like that. Like didn't they do that in Leprechaun? Wasn't the voice in the suitcase, a little girl singing Mary Had a Little Lamb or something like
that? Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street does it. The little girl singing the Freddy song.
Or when you have like killers in the movie who are very chipper, happy, or proper killers, where it's like they're murdering a ton of people, but they're like, oh, hi, how are you? Like, I'm gonna kill you now, but I apologize beforehand for what I'm gonna do to you, okay? And it's just like, it's like, ooh, it makes it more disturbing, like creepier. The fact like they're so polite and so nice, but like they're literally like serial killers.
Yeah, because they're excited. They're happy to murder you. That's scary. That's scary.
It's like that playful innocence, but like you're evil. Like how does that? It shouldn't coincide, but when it does, it's like even more evil.
It's like chicken and waffles. It's that's pretty much what that is. That's the chicken and waffles of killers right there. It's two conflicting things
so
together.
Sweet, so good.
But for many, it works. I guess I'll go into the next one, and this is a movie that I watched and absolutely loved like throughout high school. And it was Moulin Rouge. For this one. It was Moulin Rouge, and then like it's funny now, like thinking back, but I remember like I watched this movie and I was like, oh my God, I want to be in love. I was like, love is all this thing. That's why I had like my hopeless romantic like years during that time where it was just like, all right, I'm gonna find love, it's coming. And a lot of it was for this movie. It just presented the idea of like being in love with someone and sacrificing for someone, and being in tune with that feeling and towards someone, like it presented that so well, and with the music and everything, that I finished the movie and like I was inspired. I'm like, that made it seem so great. Like I want that. Like everyone should have that and all of that. And so for years I would like rewatch that movie, and then like that kept like, oh, I'm gonna find this like juices like going like throughout time. So I felt like during my younger years in high school and kind of going into college, this was a movie that was having a big impact on my mindset when it came to that.
So then you got that, you found that, and then it was like, oh, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is the right one. I don't forget. I
Yeah,
want to be in love.
Exactly.
Screw love.
Yeah.
exactly. It went back to that, and then I internal spotlights minded Moulin Rouge out of my memory, so that I forgot about that one.
No, they just gotta watch that movie again and be like, no, love exists. It does. It's out there. That's cute.
And John Leguizamo, a little throwback to our
Mhm.
Latino episode. He was in it, another role that he was killing.
American Beauty
Mm.
really hit me hard. I watched at a friend's house, and I remember after watching it, we like went for a walk outside, and it was one of those movies where it's like, we have one life. I want to be happy. And it was like everything looked different outside. And I was just like, oh my God. I cried so hard at the end because he like dies happy because he's finally doing like what he wants. And it's so dark. And so you feel so bad for him in the beginning, and you don't know why really, but then yeah, it was the first DVD I ever bought. That's like, I got a DVD player and I went right to the store and I was like, I'm buying American Beauty. It's the first DVD I ever owned. And like that movie really made me think about life differently, I think. Life and love, I guess, and family and everything, but like just life in general, it just really stuck with me and hit me hard. That was a big one.
Yeah, that was a great film. Great film. I love going back to it every once in a while and watching it.
Yeah.
Deep.
Yeah, because then at the end you're like, oh yeah, I gotta do me and be happy. Yeah, it's a good one to watch for that.
Yeah, see those are good the ones that make you reflect on your own stuff. So you're now you're thinking outside of the movie and stuff like this to the movie.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Yeah.
Right,
There's a movie called Closer. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. Love
I
Closer.
own it.
Yeah, I do too, man. I love it. I love Natalie Portman in it. Clive Owen, that was the first time I've ever seen him in anything. He was amazing in it. But speaking of love and all that, that movie focuses so much on regret, being trapped, not feeling like you can express like you might have found the wrong partner necessarily. So you kind of have like this whole switch of things, but it's finding your inner peace in a way. But even then, they're all kind of cursed to be depressed. I remember hearing this quote by saying depressed people only know how to be depressed. They look to find ways for depression because otherwise that's all that they know. They don't find comfort in not being depressed. So in that movie, that's sort of what that is from a microcosm. You have these characters that are doomed in their own mind and they just keep chasing ways to continue to injure themselves emotionally.
That movie is the definition of the grass is always greener on the other side. Yes. That's like the big overtone thing of that one.
Yeah.
So, but no, that's definitely the performances in that one, especially by the main four people, were really good.
If you rewatch that movie, pay attention to how many faces you actually see of other characters. And what I say by that is they don't interact with other characters. It's just the four the entire movie. When you don't think about that, but when you rewatch it, you're gonna watch and be like, "Oh, damn!" So this whole movie takes place in just their own little world and their own bubble. It's crazy.
Ooh,
good directing.
I didn't notice that. I'm gonna
watch
take a look at that. That's really good. I like that.
And that's why. Do you remember how Jude Law even sees Natalie Portman across the way? Everybody else is sort of like blurred out by a way, or their colors are even kind of flatter, just to make her pop out with the orange. So great filmmaking.
Yeah. I've only seen it once, and I watched it in I'll call it my Moulin Rouge phase. So I watched that movie when I was hopeful for stuff, and I remember after I watched the movie, I'm like, oh, it made me upset. I was like, damn it. So I have to rewatch it because I was in such a. That's the first movie I've ever seen him in too. Was that one?
So good.
So I go back.
I'm gonna have to rewatch that and now pay attention to the background. Good call on that, Dan.
I'm telling you, man, I can't stop. When I watch movies now, I can't stop watching it from a technical standpoint. I can't. I've just become accustomed to it. I see it. I see the editing. I see everything that they're doing. It sucks. It's like a gift and a curse. You know what I'm saying?
I was gonna say, does that make it better or worse for you? Because it takes away from the story a little bit, maybe.
It does, but it makes me completely appreciate the ones that are amazing. That's what it is. Because then I see the technical stuff and it's like, no, here's why it's amazing. Here's why it's amazing. And people are like, yeah, the story was good. I'm like, no, the directing was good. Here's what the director did. Here's how they incorporated sound. Like trust me, but yeah.
And I hear you on that, because it's like I find myself doing the same thing, but instead of from the technical directing aspect, which I still catch some things, but my main focus is usually on the performances, the acting performance, and the dialogue. Like I can forgive a lot of outside things if the performances and the dialogue are on point. I can be like, this is weighted heavier for me, and I can forgive some technical things. So I can see that, which I'm sure with you, if the technical directing actually are on point, you might be able to forgive some lower end performances and things like that. So
I know what's on the queue is Amelie and Closer.
Yeah.
And not Martyrs or Ken Park.
I feel we've this whole episode has been
on the
queue recommendations and
Closer,
things not to watch.
Yes, exactly. Watch everything that we said, even the stuff that we said that was disturbing. We only watched it once. Like kids, rewatch them.
Actually,
we're telling you to watch them.
Yeah, let us know if you feel the same way.
Yeah. All right. So we got time for just one more quick round. I had two movies left, so I'm actually going to join them into one because the impression that it left was both Paranoia. And I'm going to go with Final Destination and Terminator on this one. And they both left the paranoia thoughts of stuff. With Terminator, of course, is now every time I see technology advancing too much, what's the first thing I say? Is like Skynet. Like, have you not watched that documentary Terminator? You're messing up. Especially here, we have Boston Dynamics over here in Massachusetts, and I always see their videos where they're creating these like smart robots and like the robot dogs. And then they're like beating on them. I'm like, you are going to piss it off and we're all going to pay for this. You idiots. So any little thing, videos of like AIs talking to each other, my mind right away goes Skynet, Terminator, Skynet, Terminator. And then with Final Destination, I still can't drive behind log trucks because it's an automatic nope.
Seriously.
Yeah. If I'm on a plane and I see like a little panel that seems a little off, I start like staring at it for a while, like, or is that bolt loose? This car has a chain hanging from the back of it. I start thinking like, what's all the ways this can go wrong? So I mean, in a way, it made me uber vigilant when it comes to possible dangers around me. So I guess in a way, both of these helped.
You're prepared.
Yes. So Final Destination, Terminator 2, Paranoid for life now. Thank you.
I'll go with the Paranoia one, man. Fire in the Sky. Did you ever see Fire in the Sky with the guy that gets abducted by aliens? But it's based off of a guy that really claims that he was abducted by aliens. And when
Travis Walton?
Yep. It sounds creepy as hell. When I watched that movie when I was young, the way that they portrayed it was one of the most realistic I've ever seen in an alien movie, especially abduction. It's so creepy, and it added more like, oh my God, this is really how it feels then to be abducted. We have this image of like E.T., where we go like on a spaceship and everything's happy and nice. Like, no, dude, they're probing you, and it feels so surgical. It feels so surgical, and it feels so
technically
cold.
So was E.T.
Yes, exactly. But at least he was nice about it. He asked first. No, it was just Fire in the Sky was like, it gave a very realistic portrayal, whereas it was normally dramatized in a peachy way with other alien movies. That one was, no, man. You guys should watch it if you guys haven't seen it.
No, I haven't. I'm going to have to add that to the list. All right, Marie, you want to bring us home?
Okay, I'll go with the ones that were paranoia and fear. My top two ever in life. And first one is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, hence why I've never seen Fire in the Sky, because that movie made me afraid of aliens and being abducted for about 10 years. I couldn't watch X-Files. I couldn't see a commercial for the X-Files. I couldn't see anything that involved the gray aliens. I would like want to throw up. I could not watch it. That movie traumatized me as a kid. It's not, I watched it as an adult. It's not the best, but those little aliens are kind of cute, but ooh, get out of here. Like, no, like seriously, they're actually nice.
Cute.
They're cute. Yeah, they are too cute. What are you up to? Well, they take you up anyway, that movie, but now I can watch Fire in the Sky because I'm a little bit over it, a little bit. And The Exorcist. I couldn't sleep with the lights off for 6 months after The Exorcist. I watched it as a little Catholic 13-year-old Catholic girl, and I was dry heaving while watching it. I was sweating. I was at a sleepover, and for 6 months, because I still can't watch that movie. I made an attempt this Halloween season to watch it, turned it off before she even got possessed. I can't.
Why?
It is so good. It's too. That's why it's so scary. It's so good. It's too good. It's an experience. It's a roller coaster ride of a horror movie, and I'm not a fan of roller coasters. So that movie, I will watch it again. I promise.
Will you try the reboot?
No, if I have
has
to,
your favorite director behind
it. No, David Green, no. He's not. He wrecked my Michael. He's not going to wreck my Reagan. Like, honestly.
I'm picturing you there, like, am I possessed?
I know. Well, maybe we all should watch it, and then we can do that was so bad.
I think that would be a good one.
That's a good one.
That would be a good one.
Add it to the docket. But all right. Thank you for watching another episode of Not a Strong Start. Please like, subscribe, comment, share everything on YouTube. We're going to be dropping more content, including Marie's show that's going to be debuting very, very soon. Whoop, 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 whoop. Which she has to change her title again. Marie Plays It All.
Yeah. I don't have it like fully going yet, so I haven't done that yet.
Okay.
Yes,
it'll be on the docket. But by the time this comes out, you'll probably have it fully going. So we're good.
Just change it right now, quick. No.
Exactly. You can listen to us anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. You could follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Not a Strong Start. I'm your host, Dan de Sangre. You can follow me at King_Sangre.
I'm Jose. You can follow me at This Is Mi Nombre on Instagram.
And I'm Marie. Ignore what it says on the screen. You can follow me at Marie Plays It All on Instagram.
Whoop, whoop. And for the audio people, they're just like, what? I can't even see anything on the screen.
Good.
You just got probed.